Welcome to today's episode. Today I'm going to take you on a little tour of my trophy room / memory room. Every time I come over here and I look at these animals that I have on the wall that the good Lord above has blessed me with, it brings back a lot of great memories of that time, the great people that was with me, just the memories of that particular hunt. So I'm going to show you these animals. I'll give you a little bit of a backstory on them. Most of these animals behind me I have had officially scored. I know some of you could care less about that, and that's fine. I just wanted to know for myself. I put none of these animals in the record books. I just wanted to know what they scored. So we're going to get into that, and let's start right now. Okay, we're going to start with this first 8-point here on my left. I got this deer a few years ago, and I got him on actually the second day of our gun season. I remember the first day that I went to the same area, and I ended up seeing, I think it was 5 very small bucks, like 1.5 year olds. There might have been a 2.5-year-old in the group, but it was nothing that I wanted to shoot. I had my wife Angie with me, but she was on the other side of the ridge, and she saw some does, but she didn't see any bucks. So the next morning, she decided to go with me back there because I saw so many deer. And you know, it's exciting just seeing deer. So as we're sitting there, I could hear a chase across the valley, and up the other side of the hill there was a power line that come down. And I could hear deer over there running around. So as I got to looking with my binoculars, eventually I saw this buck, and he was after a doe. He was really had him stirred up. So I told Angie, I said, Angie, there's a pretty good buck across the valley. I said, you get ready, you can take a shot at it. And Angie turned and she looked at it and she said, Mark, that's too far. I really don't want to shoot that far. But again, so in my area, this is a decent buck. I mean, I know in this country, there's a lot of areas, there's big bucks, you know. This is a nice buck for my area. So I wasn't going to let him go. And she told me to go ahead and shoot. So I took the shot and this guy went down. Again, he's a really nice buck for my area. And on the score sheet here, I'll tell you, this guy grossed 134 7/8, and he netted 131 4/8. It takes 125 inches to make Pope and Young. So if I would have killed this deer with a bow, he would have made the Pope and Young record book if I would have chosen to put him in there. So this was an exciting hunt because Angie was with me, and I had a great time. And she was actually with me when I got this deer, so she was very happy for me. I just wish he could have been a little closer so she could have got an opportunity at him. But I want to give her credit that she didn't want to take a shot that she felt was too far away. So that was a great decision on her part. And I'm very happy to get him. Okay, this next buck I want to talk about. This is a 10-point buck. Again, I didn't have any idea he was in the area either, the same as this one. I'd never seen this buck or this buck. I never had pictures or anything of them. I really didn't run trail cameras back then, but I ended up getting this buck here. It was October the 20th, and I'm in an ash tree about 30 foot up, and I'm right on the edge of a thick bedding area, but the oaks started right there. There was a fence, and then the oaks started, a lot of white oak acorns. So as I'm sitting there, if I remember, it's getting close to 5 o'clock, and I heard something coming down the hill. You know, October 20th, there was still, you know, a good amount of leaves on. So when I looked down, I had a spike come right underneath of me, and I watched him. He went right directly underneath of me. He passed me, and he went on down the ridge. So a little bit of time goes by, and I could hear a deer coming back up the ridge. Well, I just assumed it was that spike again. But again, there was so many leaves I really couldn't see. So anytime I've got a deer coming like that, if you haven't already got you some shooting lanes or ranged, so you know the ranges, I started looking in front of where it was coming from, and I had 2 shooting lanes. So finally he come out of the brush, and I saw this rack, and you know, deer always look bigger on the hoof anyway. So he looked like a decent sized buck. Again, for my area, he's a nice deer. But he was through the first shooting lane just right now. So as he got close to the second, I bad, and he never heard me the first time. The second time I made that sound, he stopped, and he stopped perfectly in the shooting lane. It was a 31-yard shot. I had my 30-yard pin on him, hit him perfect right behind the leg. He went probably 60 or 70 yards, and I heard him go down. I was very tickled again to get him. Again, this was, I want to say, my first nicer buck, I'm going to say, for where I live. I shot a lot of young ones earlier in my life, and then I started saying, I'm going to start holding out. Again, I know he's not a giant, but for me at the time, this was a really nice deer. And this buck ended up scoring, he grosses 119 6/8, and he netted 117 even. So again, it takes 125 to be Pope and Young. So he didn't make it, but again, he's a real nice 10-point. He's pretty clean. Again, I was very excited and pretty tickled to get him. So there he is, and we'll move on to the next one. Okay, here's just an Eastern gobbler that I got mounted many, many years ago. He's got a 10.5-inch beard, and his spurs were about 1.25 inches, a little over 1.25 inches. So I decided to get one of these mounted. They are a beautiful animal, but to mount them, I'm telling you, it's hard to keep them clean. You can try to dust them. So I've only got 2 of these mounted. I've got this one, and I've got another one in another room, mounted full strut on a limb. But they're so hard to keep clean. But again, that's pretty nice spurs on a turkey. I figured this bird was probably 3.5 years old, be my best guess. But they are a beautiful animal, and they're a great time to hunt. Okay, this next one is my elk. I got this elk in 2007 in Colorado. This was an archery hunt. You can watch some of this on our YouTube channel. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to kill this elk on camera, but we did get the recovery on camera. But this was a dream hunt for me. Elk was very high. I'd hoped I'd get the opportunity to do it. When I did get this elk that particular year, the success rate was only 12% of hunters got an elk. So I'm very blessed to have got this elk. It takes 270 inches to make Pope and Young in an elk. This guy scored 220 4/8 gross, and he nets 214 even. But I just got him scored so I would know, but I'm tickled. I'm very excited that I got this thing. It was a great time. Again, you can watch that hunt on our YouTube channel, but I got to spend it with my dad, Walter, my cousin, Norman, and a good friend of ours, Brian Holbrook. So I was very tickled to get this guy. So we'll move on to the next animal. Okay, the next deer we're going to talk about is this 8-point right here. I ended up getting this buck on the second day of our rifle season, and I got him in the same place as the first one over here on the wall. I actually had my wife in a tree stand on the other side of the ridge, and she actually saw this buck first. She saw him coming out of a very thick bedding area, and I mean it's thick. She was in a tree stand, and she said she kept hearing something, and eventually he lifted his head, and she could see the antlers sticking up out of the brush, but she just couldn't get a shot at him. Eventually, he did catch her scent, her wind, and he come running to the top of the ridge and slightly down over the other side towards me, and that's when I got a shot. This was around 9:30 in the morning. It was really cold that morning, I can remember, and the sun was up, and it was really in my eyes. I really had a time getting him in the scope, because when he hit the top of the ridge, he turned parallel, and he was walking up the ridge, and he had the sun directly behind him. Eventually, he got to a spot where I could get a shot, and when I shot, he went down immediately, but I didn't know that because the sun kind of had me blinded. So I didn't dare move because I wasn't sure if he was down, if I shot and missed and he didn't know what happened or what. So I just held real still. Eventually I heard the leaves. I moved slightly and I could see him up there. He was just barely kicking. So this buck is 20 inches, 20 1/8 inches wide. It's the widest deer that I have. I was very happy to get him. If you look at his antlers closely though, his left antler is actually 7 inches bigger than his right antler. And this buck scores 134 4/8 gross, and he nets 126 7/8. So again, if I would have killed this buck with my bow, he does exceed the 125-inch minimum that would be Pope and Young. But, you know, I'm very tickled to have got this deer. Again, one of my dreams has always been to get a 20-inch wide buck, so I was able to do that with this guy. And to this date, this is the only 20-inch plus buck that I have. Okay, this next buck I'm going to talk about is this 9-point buck right here. I got this buck on a friend of mine's farm. He let me come over and go hunting with him. He did have some history with it. He had several trail cam pictures of it, so I knew he was in the area. On this particular morning, I went in, hunted a stand, and I didn't see anything that morning. We took a short break and we got something to eat, and we decided to go to a different area. I had actually made up my mind to go to a different stand, and my friend talked me into going to this tree. I'd hunted this particular tree before, and I had seen deer, but they were never close. There was a thick swamp bottom below me, and I'd always catch them down there 7,500 yards away. So I go get in this tree stand. I hadn't been in this tree stand 45 minutes, and I could hear something coming out. I'm right on the edge of, there's a bench I'm on, and I'm right on the lip of it. Then there's another bench. There was a total of like 4-step benches on this ridge. So I'm right on the edge, and I'm probably 25 foot up, but with me being right on the edge, man, it was really steep on this side. So as I'm sitting there, I could hear something coming out the bench in front of me, and I get to looking, and here come this 8-point, and he come to 7 yards. And this 8-point was probably 18 inches wide. He was really wide. I hadn't had anything, you know, I'd never killed anything that wide before. And I really thought about shooting him, but where we was hunting and the pictures my friend was showing me, I knew that there were better deer there. So I decided to let him go. So the deer passed me, he goes up the hill feeding, I'm in the white oaks, and he goes up to the next ledge. Well, all this takes place in what, 3 or 4 minutes, and I'm watching this deer and I'm second guessing myself, should I shoot this buck? So eventually I heard something else coming out the same bench. I looked up, here come a spike. He come to the same bench, just like the 8-point that walked through. He passed by, I heard something else and looked. Here come another 4-point out the same bench. I'm starting to think now there's got to be a hot doe here. There's this many bucks. This is November the 3rd. Eventually, I heard another one. I looked up, here come another small buck. I think it was a 6-point. And all of them worked past me out this ridge. But the first 8-point was the biggest one in the group I'd seen. So I've let these 4 go past me, and I hear something else coming, but the next deer is on the bench below me, and it's coming around. As soon as I seen it come around the bench where I could get eyes on it, I could see it was this guy. And I could tell immediately it was a shooter to me. It looked big, you know. So he's coming around the bench below me. I'm in an oak tree, and there's another great big oak in front of me. So I could actually, it was blocking the deer from me. And then I had an opening just right here. So as he goes behind this oak and he's walking steady, I went ahead and I started to go to full draw. And when he come out below me, I shot at him for 20 yards. Again, it was very steep. He was 26 yards, but because it was so steep, I still hit the deer high. When he took off, I saw the arrow hit a tree limb and break off, and I watched him go 100 yards out of sight. So obviously I was very excited. So I sit in the tree for a while trying to calm down. You know, you go over everything that transpired in your mind. I sit there for a little bit. I texted my friend and I said, I shot one. I said, I know I hit him high. I said, I'm not even going to track it. I'm going to wait. I'll wait till tomorrow. That's fine. So I decided to get down. Eventually I snuck out of there. I did walk down and found a piece of my arrow laying there. Then I snuck out. So we made plans to go back in there the next morning to look for it. So when I got back the next morning, we go in there and we started to track some blood. There was very little blood, very little blood. I was sure I'd never find it. There was just a speck here, a speck there. I did end up getting one lung. Eventually we walked to the last place I seen him, and I glanced over the hill, and he was probably 50 yards downhill. He made a hard left and he was heading for that swamp, and he was down there piled up. So this was my biggest buck at the time. And again, this was a bow kill. And this buck ends up scoring. He does make Pope and Young, and he does score. He grossed 134 6/8, and he nets 127 3/8. And the reason why, obviously, is because one of the reasons his left side he's got 5 points, and on his right side really he's only got 4 points because this other point here is not an inch. So that makes it be a deduction, or he would have scored higher. But this, at the time, was my biggest buck. To this date, it is still my biggest archery buck. So I was very tickled to get him. And I want to thank my friend for taking me hunting. Okay, this next buck we're going to talk about, this one up here, this 8-point. Again, November 3rd is my absolute favorite day of hunting. I got this buck right here, this bigger one, on November 3rd. I also got this guy up here on November 3rd. I had hunted all morning. I was videoing. I had videoed a small buck that morning that come in by my stand. Then I saw a few does like right after daylight, and then I saw nothing. Again, early November, I start sitting all day. So I'm debating. I went in there planning to sit all day, but then when it was so slow, I thought about getting down and moving. So I told myself, it was about 11:45, and I told myself I'm going to get down at noon and go to another tree stand. At 11:50, I heard something coming down this ridge across this funnel, and I looked up and it was him, and he had his nose to the ground. He was looking for a doe. Eventually he worked down that ridge, he turned and come through the funnel at me and gave me a shot at him. I took the shot and I saw him go about 75, 80 yards, and I saw him go down. So I sit there for a while and just waited, calmed down. I was in a climbing tree stand again, so last thing you want to do is make a mistake. I knew the deer was down. I sit there for probably 20 minutes, calmed down. Eventually I climbed down, went over, retrieved this deer. Again, at this time, I had only got this 10-point over here that we talked about earlier, and then this one I actually got the next year. He was just a little bit wider. This buck scores 117 even gross, and he nets 115 3/8. So he's close to symmetrical, a couple inches difference there. But again, at that time, I was very tickled to get him because he is a nice deer for my area. Okay, now we're going to talk about this buck right here. And to date, this is my biggest buck. I ended up getting this buck on December the 6th. It was actually the second rut, and we just happened to get in the right place. I was hunting with my friend Brian Holbrook, who you could have seen on the channel. We had moved in and we saw a couple smaller bucks chasing this doe. So we were slipping quietly up through there. We knew that there was a couple good ones in the area because we'd seen them throughout the week. This was actually on a Friday, so it was the 5th day of rifle season. And this guy, as we were slipping on out the ridge, we heard something, I think close to the same time. Brian might have seen it a split second before me, but when I looked up the ridge, he was parallel to us. He was walking out the ridge. He had his nose to the ground, and he was looking for a doe. He had no idea that I was there, or we were there. Again, he had something on his mind, and he was on his way. He passed behind a beech tree, had a bunch of leaves on it. I was going to try to get a shot, but eventually he passed the beech tree and he come down, and there was a road. We were walking a logging road, and he actually had his nose to the ground when he come out in the logging road. So I settled my scope right behind his front leg, but I made a problem here I ran into. When he was above me on the ridge, I always keep my scope at minimum. Once I see a deer, if he's out there, I will dial it up. I did that when he come across the ridge. As he started down the hill, I didn't turn the scope back down. So when he stepped out in that road, all I saw was brown because my scope was maxed out. I'm always telling my wife, don't make this mistake. It's easy to do, and I did it. But luckily, I was right behind his leg. I pulled the trigger, and he took off. This deer probably went 100 yards or so, and we started tracking him, and we found him piled up. I didn't know at the time. Stuff happens fast. I didn't think, or I didn't know that this deer was as big as he is. To me, a lot of people, you know, this is nothing to them, but to me, this is pretty nice deer. This buck scores gross 140 inches and 4/8 gross. He nets 138 and 3/8. You can see right here on this brow tine, he's got a little tiny split. You know, at some point, maybe the following year, he might have had split brow tine there. But I was tickled to death to get this buck. Again, it's my biggest one to date. And I really want to thank Brian, my friend, for taking me hunting. It was a great time. And again, it's a great buck. So I'm tickled to death that I was able to get this guy. Okay, this buck here, a guy I work with gave me permission to hunt a farm. Again, I go out there, it was rifle season. So I go in there hunting. I knew that there were some good deer in the area, but I had no cameras myself, no information. I just went in there and hoped for the best. As I hunted this one particular ridge and tree stand, I saw a few small deer. I think I saw a small buck that morning, nothing I wanted to shoot. Eventually, there were people driving deer on the neighboring farm, and I saw them come up, and I knew that they drove that area out. So I decided to cross the road and go to the other side of the farm to get away from those people. When I got over there, there was a power line there. And as I got to the power line, I could hear deer down over the hill in the timber, like running around. Initially, I thought there's a buck in there chasing some does around. So I slipped down a little bit further. I saw a small buck, which I wasn't going to shoot, so I let it go. I went a few more steps, and I happened to look up in the power line, and he had come out of the timber, and he was crossing from the left to the right. So quickly, I dropped my behind, raised my knee up, put my elbow on my knee to take a shot. It was a pretty good shot for the rifle that I had. It was a .357 Ruger bolt action rifle, straight wall cartridge. I'm hunting in Ohio, so I held right at the top of his back and I pulled the trigger. He jumped forward. He probably ran 10 yards and he just started looking around. I knew I'd missed, but he didn't know what happened. So I held just a little bit higher. I felt like I just shot under him the way he was acting. I held just a smidge higher, shot again, and he took off like a shot across the power line into the timber. So I listened carefully, and then I didn't hear anything. So I decided to wait. I waited about a half an hour before I went over there to look, because I thought I hit it good, but I wasn't positive. So I waited a half hour. I gathered up my stuff and I started sneaking over to where he went. And I really took my time. I wanted to be quiet, cautious. There were other hunters out. And the worst thing, if I didn't get him, I hated to run him to someone else. As I come to the top of the hill, boom, there he was right in front of me laying. And so I went over and was able to get a good look at him. Again, very tickled. If you look close, this guy's a bit of a fighter. He's got a split brow tine on his left antler. The one on his right is broken off, but also on his left side where his G3 is, he had two tines that come up together. He broke both of them off fighting something. To date, this is my biggest buck in terms of mass. His bases are pretty good size. I was very tickled to get him. This buck scored, he grosses 129 and 7/8, and he nets 118 and 4/8 because his broken points that he has, especially there on his left side. He's got 5-inch bases. Again, those are the biggest bases that I've got myself, but those really stood out to me. So again, I was very tickled to get this buck, and decided to mount him again at the time. Well, he's still one of the better bucks that I have. If those points were not broke off score-wise, I mean, he could easily have beat this other buck, because he's probably got at least 2 more 6-inch tines over there. But again, I'm very happy to got him. Okay, this next buck I'm going to talk about, I actually have a little bit of history with him. My nearest guess, this buck was 3.5 years old. I had pictures and video of him at 2.5. He was a 9 point the previous year as well. I mean, he's got this small point. Some people might call it a point. It's not quite an inch, so it doesn't count toward a score. So he scores as a mainframe 8 point. But he did grow probably 15 to 20 inches from the previous year. I actually get this deer on video. At some point, I'll put that hunt on the channel. But this is an archery deer that I got. Again, the day I got this deer was the only time I have ever seen him in the daylight. I did get pictures of him in the daylight. I would be hunting somewhere else or work or something like that, and he just knew when to show up. On this particular day, I had some does in the field, and he showed up to check them out. And when he walked out there, he gave me a shot, and I shot at him. He was around 40 yards when I got the shot. I took the shot. I hit him a smidge low, but it's behind the leg. So I let him run off. I gave him plenty of time. We waited a few hours. I got some help. We went in there and tracked him, and we didn't have any issues finding him. Again, a real nice deer. I was tickled to get him. This buck ends up scoring as an 8 point. He scored 128 and 6/8, and he nets 125 and 6/8. So he does qualify for the Pope and Young record book. Again, he just has to be 125 inches, and he just makes it at 125 and 6/8. Again, I'm tickled to get him, as I am with every trophy that the good Lord gives me. Okay, one other thing that I wanted to talk about real quickly. We all like to take photographs, and I encourage you to take as many pictures as you can. If you get game, you never take enough pictures, I don't think. Because when you go back and look at them, you got something not quite right, it's not cropped right, or you cut something off, take a bunch of pictures. So again, that's what I try to do here. I try to take a picture in this room. Every deer I try to get a picture, and I try to put the picture underneath the deer, and the memories. I've got several deer on the wall here that are trail cameras of either deer maybe we got or that we were chasing. All around the room, I got a lot of different pictures. Again, you can't take enough pictures and the memories of it. Again, I put the picture right underneath the deer, that particular deer. I didn't really want to mount them on the wall in case in the future I get more deer and then I've got a rare range, and I didn't want to have more holes than I have to. But take a lot of pictures, make those memories. They'll last you a lifetime. Okay, here I just want to show you a few more deer that I have. These are not all of my deer. I've got deer in other places. Here's a 9 point that I got some time ago. He had a kicker out the back that's about 2 inches long off this brow tine. I didn't see it initially when I grabbed him to drag it, hit it with my hand. But yeah, these are, again, I'm tickled to get them. They're all trophies though in my mind. Don't let anyone tell you what to shoot, but again, hunting is something that we do because we enjoy it and we like it. Nothing goes to waste. My family likes deer, and I do help our local church with the food pantry and donate deer at times to that. So there's some here. I got a few more on this wall over here I want to show you. Let's go on and talk about this antelope here. I got this antelope in Wyoming. I believe it was 2011, I think. Can't remember for sure. What you'll notice about it, he's kind of got the heart-shaped antlers. You've heard about that probably. When I was younger, growing up, I really had no intention of hunting antelope at all. They just weren't on my radar. But as my wife began to hunt more and more, I wanted to take her on a hunting trip. And as I did my research, it's not a physical hunt, basically. You sit on a water hole in a blind, and that's what we did, or you can try to spot and stalk them. Both of them are challenging. The blind, let me tell you, we went in to hunt, it was a 5-day hunt or 6-day hunt. We hunted 3 days. 2 days it was 100 degrees. The third day it was 98 degrees. And then you're in a blind. It was easily 110 or above. It was like being at the beach. It was just The sun was out, it was hot. We saw a lot of antelope. Again, you can watch this hunt on our YouTube channel if you want to do that. I was tickled to get him. It really was a good time. When I was out there and I did it, I will tell you initially, I said, I'm not doing this again, it's too hot. But since then, in the last several years, I've really been thinking about going out and trying it again. Because you should hopefully get an opportunity. Just shoot your bow a lot and be prepared. This antelope here, I think antelopes have to score 67, and this guy ends up scoring 63 and 2/8 net. I think he was 65 and something. I did see some that was bigger than that, but I really like the heart-shaped curvature to his horns up there. And it was another animal that I got the opportunity to hunt and get off my bucket list. So I was tickled to do that. Right beside of him, I have some more deer that I put on plaques. Again, they're not giants, but at the time, I'm tickled to get each and every one of them. And when I look at them, it brings back memories of that hunt, who was with me, just the stories of it. This bottom one here is an 8-point. His left main beam is broke, but again, when you see them on the hoof, they do look bigger than what they are. It was late in the season, and as much as I like to hunt, sometimes I want to kill really big deer, but sometimes, you settle. But again, it's making memories. That's what it's about. So don't let anyone tell you what to shoot. Shoot what you want to shoot. This next buck right here that I have on a plaque, you can actually watch him on our YouTube channel. This hunt is under the 2023 season. I think it's episode 2. He is a 9-point. I had some history with him. I mean, I had a lot of pictures of him throughout the early season. He was showing up every day. Then, as you know, when the rut kicks in, they start moving, and he disappeared for a while. He did show back up. This particular year, there was a really nice 11-point in my area. I know there's shorts of him on YouTube, on my shorts section. You can go in there and probably find him. He had a split brow tine, and he was really nice and wide. And that year, he was my #1 target deer. He was the biggest one that I had pictures of. But as you know, these trail cameras are great to give you information, most recent information, up to date. That's nice to know, but when the rut kicks in, you get deer coming from all over, so you have no idea where they're coming from. I did get this buck scored. Let me grab my sheet here real quick. I can't remember right off the top of my head what he scored. Okay, he scored 122 even, so as a 9-point, and he nets 114 and 3/8. So there are clearly some deductions there. Obviously, he's got the 5th point on his left side. That's a deduction. It's probably 3.5 inches or so. And then he's just, his left main beam is just a little bit, it goes out wider, I think. But again, I really love that mount. I've actually got one this year, and he's at the taxidermist now, and I'm getting another one done like this. The skull mounts, initially when they come out, I wasn't a fan. But in terms of, they're growing on me, and plus they're a lot cheaper than getting the full-size deer mounts. So these are just some of the trophies that I've got over the years. I thought I'd show them to you. Again, some of you might think that they're nice, and some of you would say, well, I wouldn't shoot them. Again, it goes back to where you live. I mean, it depends on what's big in your area. You know what's big in your area, and these deer are nice for my area. So again, I want to thank the good Lord upstairs, and I'm tickled to get each and every one of them. I want to thank every landowner that has given me permission to hunt. I want to thank my family for going and helping me. My wife for allowing me to do this stuff. She knows how much I love it, the passion it is. Again, each and every one of these deers, as I come over here, elk, antelope, it just brings back memories of a great time. And we don't know how much time on this earth we'll have, so make your memories. Don't let anyone hold you back. Make these hunts and do them while you can. I want to thank you for watching today's episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, this is just my little piece of trophy room. A lot of memories. Again, I want to thank our military personnel. Thank you for your service. Also, I want to say again, on our channel, we got a lot of shorts underneath the shorts tab. Go there and check that out. I try to put a short on every 3 days or so. I try to put different animals. These shorts are 15 seconds, but again, it's a lot of different animals. I really think you'd enjoy them if you give them a chance, like them. Again, please think about subscribing to our channel. Again, it doesn't cost you anything. Hit that thumb up like button, we really appreciate it. Now for a preview of an upcoming episode on Friend Outdoor Ventures.
Shoot it.